Shy girl walked into the wrong room and caught a man showering, unaware he was the CEO who'd change everything. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The soft hum of conversation filled the marble hallway of the Grand Orion Hotel. Crystal chandeliers glowed above polished floors, casting a golden haze over every reflection. Guests in elegant suits and silk dresses moved between the lobby and the elevators, their laughter echoing against the glass walls. Lina Brooks stood at the end of the corridor, clutching a tray of towels and bottled water so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Her uniform was a size too big, her shoes pinched her toes, and the name tag on her chest still smelled of new plastic. It was her third week as a room service trainee, and tonight she was desperate not to make another mistake. Room 409, she whispered to herself, reading the number from her order sheet. The numbers on the doors glimmered under the warm light. 409, 409. The sign at the end of the hallway pointed left, but her nerves tangled the directions. She stopped in front of a door that read 406, unaware that the polished 6 had once been a 9 turned upside down. She took a shaky breath, adjusted her ponytail, and knocked twice. No answer. Steam curled from the gap beneath the door. The sound of running water echoed faintly from inside. Lina hesitated, her pulse fluttering. Maybe the guest was in the shower and had left the door slightly open for her delivery. The air smelled faintly of cedar and soap. "Hello? Room service," she said softly, pushing the door open just a few inches. No response, only the steady rush of water. She stepped inside. The room was spacious and dimly lit, with soft jazz humming from invisible speakers. A gray suit jacket hung on the back of a chair. She set the tray down on the counter, glancing nervously toward the bathroom door, where a haze of steam billowed out like fog. Then the shower stopped. A deep voice hummed a low tune behind the frosted glass. Lina froze. Before she could step back, the door opened, and a man emerged. His hair wet, a towel wrapped around his waist. Droplets glistening on his chest under the warm light. For a split second, both of them stood motionless. His expression shifted from surprise to concern, while hers collapsed into pure panic. "Oh my God, I am so sorry," she stammered, grabbing the tray again, even though it was already on the table. "I thought this was 409. He blinked, momentarily speechless. The stranger looked to be in his early 30s, tall, sharp-featured, the kind of man who carried quiet authority without trying. His voice was calm when he finally spoke. "You have the wrong room." I know, I am leaving," Lina squeaked, backing toward the door so fast that she bumped into the wall. The tray clattered, a bottle rolled across the carpet, and she darted out, her heart thundering against her ribs. The door clicked shut behind her, and she pressed her back to the cool wall of the corridor, her face burning. "That is it. I am so fired," she muttered, half laughing, half trembling. She looked down and realized something horrifying: her employee badge was gone. Inside room 406, the man Ethan Carter picked up the small plastic tag from the floor. He turned it over, reading the name. "Lina Brooks," he murmured, his brows knitting with curiosity. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Outside, Lina fled toward the service elevator, mortified, unaware that the man she had just walked in on was not an ordinary guest, but the elusive owner of the entire hotel chain, the CEO himself. And for reasons even he could not explain, Ethan Carter found himself smiling for the first time in months. Lina could barely sleep that night. The image of the stranger stepping out of the shower replayed over and over in her head like a broken film reel. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the steam, the startled look on his face, and the awful moment she realized her mistake. By morning, embarrassment had turned into dread. If he reported her, she would lose her job. At sunrise, she stood behind the housekeeping desk, eyes heavy, waiting for the inevitable call from her supervisor. The hotel lobby buzzed with activity guests checking out, staff rushing to and fro, the scent of coffee and polished wood filling the air. Lina straightened the folded linens just to keep her hands busy. "Lina Brooks," a stern voice called. Her heart jumped. The floor manager, Mrs. Grant, waved her over. "You are assigned to assist the front desk today. Be professional." No mistakes. Front desk? That was usually reserved for senior staff. Lina swallowed hard. Yes, ma'am. With Windhausen. She tied her hair neatly, took a deep breath, and stepped behind the marble counter. The front desk gleamed like a mirror. Guests drifted by in tailored coats and designer shoes. She forced a smile, greeting them one by one, praying no one would recognize her as the clumsy maid from the night before. Then the glass doors slid open, and the lobby fell quiet for a second. A tall man entered, flanked by two executives. His navy suit fit perfectly, his steps measured, his expression unreadable. The staff instinctively straightened up. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," someone said. Lina froze. Her heart stopped. It was him, the man from the shower. But now, instead of a towel, he wore authority like armor. Ethan Carter, CEO of Carter Hotels, owner of the building she worked in, her mouth went dry. She turned her face away, pretending to sort through keycards. "Please do not see me. Please do not see me." But he did. For a brief moment his gaze landed on her. Recognition flickered, then softened. To her shock, he said nothing. No smirk, no mention of last night, just a polite nod before walking toward the elevator with his team. Lina's knees nearly gave out. She exhaled a breath she had been holding for what felt like hours. That afternoon, while checking invoices, she heard a voice behind her. "Miss Brooks?" She spun around. It was him again, standing just a few feet away, his tone gentle but firm. "You left this," he said, holding out her employee badge. Her face turned crimson. "I thank you, sir. I am truly sorry about last night. It was a terrible mistake, and it will not happen again." Ethan's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Mistakes happen. You handled it better than most would." "I almost lost my job," she murmured. "But you did not," he replied calmly. "Maybe that means you deserve another chance." Before she could respond, he glanced at her stack of notes. "You have good handwriting," he added, almost to himself. "Do you draw?" Lina blinked. "A little. I like sketching interiors. But it is just a hobby." He nodded once, thoughtful. "Sometimes hobbies tell us who we really are." Then he walked away, leaving her staring after him, her heart pounding for reasons she could not name. That evening, as she finished her shift, Lina opened her small sketchbook, the one where she dreamed up her version of perfect hotel rooms. She traced a line across the page, her thoughts drifting back to the man who had turned her worst mistake into something she could not stop thinking about. Across town, Ethan Carter sat alone in his penthouse suite overlooking the city skyline. For the first time in a long while, he was not thinking about profits or shareholders. He was thinking about a nervous young woman who had walked into the wrong room and somehow managed to walk straight into his mind. The next morning, the hotel lobby buzzed with weekend energy. Luggage wheels rolled across marble, soft piano music floated through the air, and the scent of roasted coffee filled every corner. Lina tried to lose herself in the rhythm of work, checking guests in, logging receipts, arranging fresh flowers at the counter, but her thoughts refused to quiet down. Every glance toward the elevator made her heart race. Ethan Carter had not appeared all morning, yet his name was everywhere. Staff whispered about a surprise inspection, about the new art project the CEO was personally overseeing. Lina kept her head down, determined to stay invisible. Around noon, the front desk phone rang. "Lina, the penthouse suite needs an urgent delivery. The manager wants you to handle it personally," Mrs. Grant instructed. Her stomach dropped. The penthouse suite, the top floor. She knew exactly who stayed there. "Yes, ma'am," Lina said softly, even as her pulse quickened. The elevator ride felt endless. When the doors opened, she stepped into a corridor lined with dark oak panels and soft golden light. She knocked once. "Room service," she said, her voice trembling. "Come in," a familiar voice called. Ethan stood by the window, his suit jacket off, sleeves rolled up, reviewing a stack of blueprints spread across a table. He looked up when she entered, and for a moment his expression softened. "Miss Brooks, you are fast." She set the tray down carefully. "Here is the file Mrs. Grant asked me to deliver, sir." Crazen. "The common hours." Selfin. He nodded but did not take it immediately. "You work hard," he said quietly. "Most trainees avoid the front desk. It is not easy handling complaints." "I am just grateful to still have a job," she replied, her tone cautious. He studied her for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You know, I was not joking about your drawings. I saw your sketchbook yesterday in the break room. The Perspective Work Hotel Interiors, right? Her eyes widened. You looked at it? I found it next to the service desk. I could tell it was yours. His voice was calm, sincere. You have an eye for design, Lina. You see beauty in ordinary things. That is rare. She blushed, unsure how to respond. Thank you, sir, but it is only doodling. I cannot afford art school. Sometimes opportunity finds you before you find it, Ethan said, closing the blueprint folder. There is a design internship opening next month. You should apply. Use my name for the reference. Her breath caught. Your name? He smiled again, the corner of his mouth lifting. Yes, mine. For a second, silence filled the room, except for the faint hum of the city below. Lina could not tell if he was serious or simply being kind, but his gaze carried no mockery, only quiet conviction. Thank you, Mr. Carter, she whispered, clutching the file to her chest. He gave a small nod, his eyes lingering on her a moment longer. Go on, Miss Brooks. You have work to do. When she left the suite, her steps were light, her heart strangely full. For the first time since that humiliating night, hope flickered inside her. Back at the front desk, Mrs. Grant raised an eyebrow. He talked to you? A little, Lina said, smiling to herself. About opportunities. Opportunities, the manager echoed, clearly surprised. Lina only nodded, her cheeks warm. She returned to her station, unaware that behind the penthouse window, Ethan Carter was still watching the lobby below, his reflection merging with the skyline. For years, his world had been built on precision and power. But after one mistaken knock on the wrong door, something unexpected had found its way in something real. Sunday evening settled over the city like a soft blanket. From her small apartment on the east side, Lina watched the glow of distant skyscrapers shimmer across the river. The Grand Orion stood among them, its glass towers glinting like gold. She still could not believe what had happened that afternoon. Ethan Carter, her boss, the man she had humiliated herself in front of, had encouraged her to apply for a design internship. He had even offered his name as a reference. Every time she replayed the moment, she wondered if it had been a dream. Her roommate Kelly peeked out from the kitchen. You are staring at that sketchbook again, she teased. You sure you do not have a crush on whoever you are drawing? Lina laughed softly. I am just trying to get this layout right. She flipped the page, revealing a drawing of a hotel lobby filled with warm light and open space. I want it to feel welcoming, not intimidating. That sounds like you, Kelly said, smiling. Kind and nervous at the same time. Lina rolled her eyes but smiled back. You should get some rest, Kelly added. Big day tomorrow? Yes, Lina admitted. Mr. Carter wants me to help assist with the upcoming charity gala. It is my first real event shift. Charity gala? Kelly grinned. Sounds fancy. Try not to walk into the wrong room again. And second place is A-tram of the world down rest. Lina threw a pillow at her friend, laughing for the first time in days. The next morning, the hotel was buzzing with preparations. Staff arranged tables draped in white linen, florists moved vases through the corridors, and the soft chime of crystal echoed through the ballroom. The annual Carter Foundation Charity Gala was the most prestigious event of the year. Lina's job was to assist the planning coordinator with guest seating and decor checks. She carried her sketchbook everywhere, just in case she found inspiration. When she passed the main hall, she caught a glimpse of Ethan speaking with the board of directors. He looked composed, confident, every inch the powerful CEO she had read about in business magazines. And yet, when his gaze briefly met hers across the room, he gave the smallest nod, subtle but enough to steady her nerves. By mid-afternoon, she was setting candles on the dining tables when her supervisor, Mrs. Grant, appeared behind her. You are being promoted to the main reception team for tonight, she announced. Promoted? Lina repeated, startled. The CEO personally requested it, the woman said, lowering her voice. Do not make me regret it. As evening fell, the ballroom transformed. Golden light spilled from chandeliers, the scent of roses lingered in the air, and a string quartet began to play. Guests in gowns and tuxedos filled the hall. Lina moved gracefully between them, offering assistance, checking details, doing her best to blend into the elegance surrounding her. Then she heard his voice. Miss Brooks. She turned. Ethan stood at the edge of the room, wearing a black tuxedo, his presence commanding yet calm. You have done impressive work, he said. The setup looks perfect. Into Grace Fry. Thank you, sir, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Enjoy the evening," he said quietly. "You earned it." Lina nodded, unsure if she should smile or salute. Before she could decide, the MC's voice echoed through the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and CEO of Carter Hotels, Mr. Ethan Carter." Applause filled the hall. Lina froze. The truth struck her all over again. He was not just her boss. He was the man whose name graced every building. The man she had once seen half-dressed through a cloud of steam. And now he stood under the spotlight, thanking donors, speaking about hope, growth, and giving back to those in need. As the crowd clapped, she felt both awe and confusion. Somewhere between admiration and disbelief, she realized she was holding her breath again. And when his speech ended, Ethan's eyes searched the crowd and found hers. Just for a heartbeat, amid hundreds of guests, it felt like the room belonged only to them. The applause slowly faded as the orchestra began to play again. The ballroom shimmered under the glow of chandeliers, laughter and conversation swirling like a current of champagne bubbles. Lina tried to steady her breathing, clutching her notepad against her chest as the guests mingled. She should have felt proud, but instead her mind kept replaying the way Ethan's eyes had found hers under the spotlight. When the speech ended, he moved easily through the crowd, people shaking his hand, praising his words, photographers snapping pictures. He looked comfortable in a world that would always feel far away from hers. Still, when he reached the refreshment table, he paused and glanced in her direction again. She quickly looked away, pretending to rearrange a vase of lilies. "Miss Brooks," his voice came softly behind her. She turned, startled. "Mr. Carter, He smiled slightly. "Relax. You are not in trouble. You did an excellent job tonight. The board is impressed." "Thank you, sir. I just followed the checklist. Not everyone follows it with this kind of care," he said, his gaze lowering for a brief moment to the sketchbook she was holding. "You brought that again?" Her cheeks warmed. "It helps me remember color balance," she said quickly. "May I?" he asked. Before she could protest, he gently took the sketchbook and flipped through the pages. There were drawings of hotel rooms, lobbies, and even the ballroom itself, soft lines and thoughtful details that made the spaces look alive. "These are extraordinary," he said quietly. "You see things most people overlook." "They are just daydreams," she replied. "I like imagining places where people feel safe." "Lugged place." He looked at her, something thoughtful in his eyes. "Maybe that is what this world needs, more of people who want to make others feel safe." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt charged, delicate. Then someone from the press called his name, and Ethan handed the sketchbook back with a smile. "Hold on to that dream, Lina. You never know who might believe in it next." She nodded, unable to find words. As he walked away, surrounded again by executives and cameras, Lina watched him disappear into the sea of tuxedos and diamonds. Later that night, after the last guests had gone, she lingered in the empty ballroom, collecting stray glasses and folding linens. The music had stopped, but the memory of the evening still shimmered in the air. Mrs. Grant approached, carrying a clipboard. "You can head home, Lina. Mr. Carter already left. Said to tell you good work." "Arfon explains." Lina blinked. "He mentioned me?" The woman nodded. "Apparently he noticed your eye for detail. You must be doing something right." Lina smiled faintly. "Thank you." By the time she reached her apartment, exhaustion settled over her like a blanket, but it was mixed with something lighter hope. She placed the sketchbook on her nightstand, tracing the pencil lines of her latest drawing. Across the city, Ethan Carter stood on the balcony of his penthouse, the skyline reflected in his glass of wine. He should have been thinking about investors or market expansion, but instead, he was thinking about her, the young woman who had stumbled into his world by accident and somehow made it feel human again. He remembered the look in her eyes when she talked about safety, about warmth. Most people he met spoke of numbers, power, and profit. Lina Brooks had spoken about belonging. For the first time in years, he realized he wanted to know more, not as a CEO, but as a man who had forgotten what sincerity looked like, until a nervous, kind-hearted girl walked into the wrong room and changed everything. The morning after the gala, Lina woke to the sound of rain against her window. The city looked softer through the gray light, streets blurred with puddles and reflections. She wrapped her sweater tighter and poured herself a cup of instant coffee. Her phone buzzed with a new message from the hotel. "Report to the executive office at 9 a.m. Mr. Carter requested your presence." Her stomach flipped. Requested her presence? Had she done something wrong again? She read the message twice before forcing herself to get dressed. When she arrived, the lobby was quiet. The usual morning rush had not yet begun, and the air smelled faintly of polished wood and coffee beans. Lina took the elevator to the top floor, her pulse quickening with every passing number. When the doors opened, she stepped into a sleek office filled with panoramic windows and soft light. Ethan Carter was standing near the window, hands in his pockets, watching the rain fall over the skyline. He turned when she entered. "Good morning, Miss Brooks. Please, have a seat." She sat carefully on the edge of the chair, her hands clasped together. "Sir, if this is about the gala, He interrupted gently. "It is about the gala, but not in the way you think. I wanted to thank you personally. The event was a success, and your attention to detail did not go unnoticed." Lina blinked, uncertain how to respond. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. It was a team effort." "True," he said with a small smile. "But sometimes a single person changes the tone of an entire evening." The compliment left her speechless. He continued, his voice steady and professional. "I also wanted to tell you that your internship application has been accepted. You will be joining the design department starting next week." Her mouth fell open. I, I got in?" "Yes," Ethan said simply. "Your sketches spoke for themselves. I showed them to our head architect. He was impressed." For a moment, Lina forgot to breathe. She pressed her hand to her chest. "I do not know what to say." "Say yes," Ethan replied softly. "And keep working the way you already do. Hard, honest, and with heart." Her eyes shimmered with gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I promise I will not disappoint you." "I know you will not," he said. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, "You can call me Ethan, at least outside of work hours." The suggestion startled her. I think Mr. Carter is safer," she said quickly. He chuckled, the sound low and warm. "Fair enough." As she stood to leave, Ethan's tone turned thoughtful. "You know, when we first met, I thought you would run and never come back." She smiled nervously. "I almost did." "I am glad you did not," he said quietly. "That mistake might have been the best thing that happened to this place in a long time." Lina walked out of the office feeling lightheaded. The elevator ride down felt unreal, her reflection in the mirrored walls grinning back at her like a stranger. By the time she returned to her apartment that evening, the rain had stopped. The city lights shimmered through the window, casting golden streaks across her sketchbook. She opened it, turning to a fresh page. At the top, she wrote 3 words in neat handwriting. "Best mistake ever." Is actually. Across town, Ethan closed his laptop and glanced at the framed photo on his desk, a picture of the gala's main hall. In the corner of the image, barely visible, was Lina, adjusting the tablecloth with quiet precision. He smiled to himself. For the first time in years, the perfectionist CEO realized that not everything valuable in life could be planned. Some things, like the right person walking into the wrong room, were meant to happen exactly by accident. The following week passed in a blur of new beginnings. Lina's first day in the design department felt like stepping into another world. Gone were the trays and uniforms. Now she sat among architects, color consultants, and creative directors, all surrounded by sketches and fabric swatches. Her badge now read Design Intern. It felt unreal. Her workspace was small, but filled with light from the tall windows that overlooked the city. She arranged her pencils neatly, lined up her sketchbook beside her monitor, and whispered a silent promise to do her best. By mid-morning, the head architect, Mr. Holloway, introduced her to the team. "This is Miss Brooks." Mr. Carter recommended her personally. A few curious glances turned her way. She smiled shyly, feeling both pride and pressure tighten in her chest. Over the next few days, Lina found her rhythm organizing mood boards, suggesting color palettes, and staying late to learn the software she barely understood. Sometimes she caught Ethan walking through the office for quick updates. He would always give her a small nod of acknowledgement before continuing on, and somehow that single gesture made her heart race every time. One evening, as the office lights dimmed, she stayed behind to finalize a presentation board. The floor was quiet, the city humming faintly outside. She was gathering her papers when the elevator chimed. Ethan stepped out, still in his suit, his tie loosened slightly. "Working late?" Lina straightened. "Yes, sir, Mr. Carter. I just wanted to make sure the samples were ready for tomorrow." He walked closer, studying the boards. "You redesigned the entire lobby layout." She hesitated. I just thought the guests might feel more comfortable if the seating faced the windows instead of the reception. It lets the light in. He examined the drawing, then nodded slowly. You are right. It changes the whole tone. It feels welcoming. She bit her lip. I did not mean to overstep. You did not, he said softly. You improved it. For a moment, silence stretched between them. The city lights cast a soft glow over the room, reflecting in the glass walls. Ethan's voice grew gentler. Do you ever think about how strange life can be? One wrong turn, one small accident, and suddenly everything changes. Lina looked up, meeting his gaze. Every day, she said quietly, but maybe that is how the right things find us. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that held both warmth and restraint. Maybe so. Just then, the elevator doors opened again. Mrs. Grant stepped out, surprised to see them both. Mr. Carter, I did not know you were still here. I was just reviewing the new layout, he said smoothly. Miss Brooks has done remarkable work. After the manager left, Lina began packing her materials. Thank you for saying that, she murmured. Ethan's tone lowered. I meant it. You have a gift, Lina. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. She smiled, her heart thudding with something she could not name. Good night, Mr. Carter. Good night, he replied, watching her step into the elevator. When the doors closed, he found himself staring at the reflection in the glass, the faint imprint of a girl who had stumbled into his world and somehow made him remember what sincerity felt like. Later that night, Lina sat by her window sketching the hotel's skyline under the stars. For the first time, her lines felt sure, her hands steady. She realized she was no longer afraid of mistakes. Sometimes, mistakes led exactly where you were meant to be. And though she would never admit it out loud, she could not stop wondering if her path and Ethan Carter's were meant to keep crossing again. 2 months passed, and the Grand Orion Hotel looked different than before. Fresh paint covered the lobby walls. Soft light poured in through new glass panels, and every corner reflected the quiet grace of Lina's touch. Her design internship had turned into something much bigger than she had ever imagined. Guests complimented the new layout every day, and even the board of directors had taken notice. But none of it compared to the moment she saw Ethan Carter pause in the center of the lobby, looking around with quiet satisfaction. It feels alive again, he said one afternoon, more to himself than anyone else. Lina had been behind the front desk, updating guest files, when she heard him say it. Their eyes met briefly. He gave her the kind of smile that carried both pride and gratitude, an unspoken thank you between two people who had built something beautiful out of a mistake. But peace never lasted long in places run by ambition. A week later, whispers began to spread through the staff. Someone had leaked confidential design plans to a competing hotel chain. The board was furious. An investigation started immediately. That afternoon, Lina was called to the manager's office. When she entered, Mrs. Grant looked unusually tense. Lina, please sit, she said. This will not take long. Lina's palms turned cold. Is something wrong? Mrs. Grant sighed. Blueprints for the new lobby concept were found in the inbox of a rival developer. Your employee account was used to access the files. Lina's heart dropped. That is impossible. I never shared anything. I would never. Before she could finish, the door opened. Ethan stepped inside, his expression unreadable. It is all right, Mrs. Grant. I will handle this. The woman nodded and quietly left the room. Ethan turned to Lina. Tell me exactly what happened. Her voice shook. I do not know. I was working late last Friday. I saved the new plans to the shared drive before going home. That is all. He watched her closely. You are sure no one else used your computer? I always lock it, she whispered. I swear I would never betray your trust. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he exhaled, rubbing a hand across his jaw. I believe you. Lina looked up in disbelief. You do? Yes. Because you are not the kind of person who hides behind lies. Relief washed over her eyes, but worry lingered. What will happen now? I will take care of it, he said firmly. But there will be noise for a few days. I want you to take some time off paid leave. I cannot, she protested. I need this job. Ethan stepped closer, his voice calm but decisive. I am not firing you, Lina. I am protecting you. For the first time, she noticed the exhaustion in his face, the burden of leadership, of defending someone who had become more than an employee. That night, as she walked home under the streetlights, she tried to process everything. Someone had framed her. Someone wanted her gone. Yet through all the chaos, Ethan had chosen to trust her. 2 days later, the truth surfaced. The leak had come from a senior staff member who had used her login credentials. When the investigation closed, Ethan called her back to his office. "You were right," he said simply. "You are cleared." Lina's voice trembled. "Thank you for believing me when no one else did." Ethan looked at her, his tone softer now. "You once said you wanted to make spaces where people feel safe. I could not let anyone take that away from you." For a heartbeat, silence filled the room. The distance between them felt smaller than ever. And in that quiet, both realized that trust earned through kindness and courage had built something deeper than either of them had planned. Spring arrived, painting the city in soft gold and green. The Grand Orion Hotel prepared for the unveiling of its new art and design, exhibit and event celebrating innovation, creativity, and the people who made it happen. Banners lined the marble entrance with elegant letters that read, "The Art of Space, a Carter Foundation Showcase." Lina walked through the lobby that morning, her heart light but trembling. It had been 3 months since the investigation cleared her name. She had been reinstated full-time, promoted to junior designer, and even received her first paycheck that did not vanish into rent and bills. Still, she could not shake the disbelief that this was her life now. As she passed the new exhibit hall, she froze. At the center of the room, framed in soft lighting, stood a display titled "Dreams of Lina Brooks." Inside the glass case lay her old sketchbook, the same one she used when she was a housekeeper, filled with drawings of sunlight, warmth, and belonging. Her eyes widened. She turned to the staff member nearby. Who? Who did this?" The woman smiled. "Mr. Carter insisted on it. He said this collection started with your imagination." Lina's breath caught. She turned slowly, and there he was. Ethan stood near the doorway, dressed simply but with that same composed elegance that never faded. "You kept that sketchbook?" she asked softly as he approached. "I told you to hold on to your dream," he said with a quiet smile. "You just gave everyone else a reason to believe in it too." Her voice trembled. "You did not have to do this for me." "I did not do it for you," he replied gently. "I did it because your work reminded me what this company was supposed to stand for: hope, integrity, and the courage to start again." Tears welled in her eyes. "I do not know how to thank you." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "You already did, the day you refused to give up." For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then he took a small velvet box from his pocket. "There is one more thing," he said quietly. Inside was a delicate silver pendant shaped like a small key, engraved with the words, "Best Mistake." Lina gasped softly. "You remembered." "I remember everything about that night," Ethan said with a hint of laughter in his eyes. "The wrong door, the wrong room, and somehow the right person." She smiled through her tears. "It was the most embarrassing moment of my life." "Maybe," he said, taking her hand, "but it was also the beginning of mine." End quote. End quote. The music from the lobby drifted through the air as the crowd began to gather for the ceremony. Ethan turned toward her, his voice steady but full of warmth. "Lina Brooks, would you do me the honor of joining this company, not just as its designer, but as my partner in everything that comes next?" Her heart skipped a beat. "Are you asking me?" "Yes," he said simply. "To build something real. Together." She could only nod, tears falling freely now. Later that evening, as the lights dimmed and applause filled the hall, Lina looked at the framed sketchbook again. The girl who once feared losing her job had created something that changed her world. And beside her stood the man who proved that leadership was not measured by wealth or power, but by kindness and belief. When the night ended, Ethan placed his hand over hers and whispered, "Here is to every wrong turn that leads us home. Is not Regis." She smiled, her eyes shining under the golden light. "To the best mistake we ever made."